as a cop, I believe you should sit there and you should realize a kid when it's a toxic home environment, he needs to get away for a little bit. If I was a cop, I would, I would kind of be like that father figure towards some of those kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, ask them like, oh, are you good? Like, making sure you're good, like trying to help them get through that toxic environment. Like, the cops, they never seem to have enough time to actually ask and care about any of that.
One of the most complex issues communities face today is the relationship between communities and law enforcement, and sometimes between communities and prosecutors. And even more complex can be the relationship between youth and police. And so we're here today to provide guidance on how communities can work together into solutions to this complex problem. The problems may differ from town to town, from city to city, but by incorporating the voice of youth and collaborating with each other, effective solutions can be developed and implemented, and that will improve outcomes for our youth and make our community safer.
We were just sitting there, not really causing any problems, just sitting there talking, listening to music, and it wasn't like the music was too loud, and here comes the cops. Oh, you guys gotta come with me. You guys gotta come with me. You guys can't be here. And it's a public street, why can't we be here? The police officer could have came up and asked us, what's wrong? Like, why are you guys out here at this late? Like, getting to know us, like getting to ask us questions like, oh, what's your guys' names? Like, where are you guys from? Like, what are you guys doing out here right now? Like relating to us, like maybe thinking why we're out there. Like, not just assuming that we're doing bad things, because that's not the case.
They want to go up to you aggressive and be like, what you doing? Why are you out this late? But they're not asking you a simple question like, what's wrong? No, you assume that we're doing drug deals or going out with our friends. And maybe we are going out with our friends, but at the same time, we're trying to find that comfort that we need that we can't have at home.
Sometimes, because of all of our previous impressions of cops, sometimes we might be a little scared or worried of a cop, but give us a reason to not feel that way. Make us feel safe.
I feel like if they come aggressive, they give like everyone like anxiety, and like everyone's like all like tensed up, like don't know what's gonna happen, and anything could happen with a police officer. You move wrong, they could do whatever. They could take you to jail, anything.
There are many young people who have negative views of police officers. This comes from what they are told by their families, friends, and other adults, their own interactions and observations, and what they see on social media, even if they've never interacted with police.
Social media is a huge impact on, I feel like, everybody's life. A lot of us teenagers have really big issues with social media. A lot of the schools are having issues with social media. Somebody fights, it's on Snapchat 5 minutes later. Somebody's crying and sad, somebody's recording them, it's on social media a couple minutes later. It has such a big effect on all of our lives.
They view as social media like that's their lifeline. They gotta look through like, oh my God, like this is what they're doing. I wanna start doing that. I wanna start smoking. I wanna do all that.
Yeah.
But they're not seeing the real consequences. Like, somebody wants to do that, but someone can't because they're fighting for their life, or they don't know what they're gonna come home to, and they want to escape from that.
With the whole thing, with the negativity and exposing everyone and all of that, people like to laugh at it and find it funny, but it's only funny until it's you.
So many things are happening. Bullying that used to be in the old days, you would be bullied at school. Now you're bullied 24/7. But if someone thinks that you said something bad about them, they're gonna come after you. I mean, it's just tons of gang activities are done and planned on social media. So it really is. I'm not saying that internet is bad, and there are good things on internet, obviously, but youth have to be supervised, and that's a huge message that has to get out there.
So as law enforcement officers, understanding that the brain isn't fully developed until you're 26 years old, that teenagers are gonna have a heightened cortisol level when coming in contact with law enforcement because it's stressful, because I've seen you take my dad to jail, my brother to jail, I've seen you get in a use of force in the community. All of those things play into the community's response and interactions with law enforcement. And it's incumbent upon us to understand that response and adjust how we work in our communities.
There was a spate of unarmed black men being shot and killed by white male police officers. It resonated with me, and I wanted to do something about it. A lot of communities don't have a lot of faith in law enforcement. They don't have a lot of faith in the judicial system. And when it comes to safe communities, if you don't have a healthy line of communication between community residents and law enforcement, crimes are not going to get solved. Law enforcement needs the community as a partner in order to solve crimes. And if there's not a healthy relationship and a trust between those two groups, you're going to get that underreporting because they live in a state of learned helplessness. If I report this, is anything really going to get done? If I have a complaint against an officer, is something actually going to happen to that officer, or am I going to become a target because I made the complaint? And right now, the only exposure that they have to law enforcement is if they've been pulled over for a traffic violation or on foot. There is no relationship.
Oftentimes, as I travel around my community, I find that there is less trust of law enforcement and less trust of government in general. By breaking down barriers, communicating with people, understanding what their needs are, understanding what causes their distrust, we can then serve the community better.
One of the things that I learned as a prosecutor early on was that prevention is the very best way to effectuate public safety. If we emphasize prevention at an early point in the age of the people that we work with, juveniles, then we can do so much to make our communities safer.
Starting young, getting them from middle school and high school, and with everything, social media is a big influence on these kids now. So now when you start them young and you can educate them on certain things on social media within the community and the police, like, hey, listen, you're just watching a 2-minute segment. There's more to it, so they can get an insight on how things work from the beginning to the end.
A modern prosecutor has to think about community safety in a larger platform than just prosecuting their way out of crime. Oftentimes people think putting people in jail is the solution, and that is part of the solution. But we also have to look at how do we solve the problems that cause crime in our community. Because as we give children tools to become healthy, vibrant citizens, we are then hopefully down the path longitudinally solving some of the issues that get kicked into the criminal justice system.
In terms of the role that juvenile prosecutors might play with regard to improving the relationships between young people and law enforcement, I hope that my answer isn't tainted by the bias that probably exists from having been a prosecutor for 28 years. But one of the things that I really tried hard to do was to make sure that my role, my objective, was not to win cases, but to make sure that justice was served. And the only way that you can do that is by having an open mind, by looking at both sides of the equation, both sides of the case, being open to change your initial perception.
Collaboration is really important. I think when you have
the youth programs, you have the police officers, you have the prosecutors, you have other entities in this juvenile justice world come together. Children are now able to meet the prosecutors in their neighborhood, whether it be a community event, whether it be, even a basketball league where you have some prosecutors come and, put their sneakers on and shoot some hoops.
The kids see us as a civilian in a way that they're not intimidated by us in uniform. It's us out of uniform in civilian attire, and just mentoring kids and bridging the gap between the police and civilians. For me, it's to see a kid that's come through our program progressing in life. So now that the kids are within and they can understand how we do things and understand that we are just human beings just like them.
To do this work, to work with young people, law enforcement, to have the opportunity to go into the community, to engage with the people that you're sworn to protect, to do what is necessary to effectuate public safety through prevention, man, it can be just wonderful in terms of the impact that it has on you. It revives you. It renews that spark that caused you to pursue this work in the first place. I want to see you enjoy it. I want to see you actually see the fruit that your work has reaped. So I encourage you to do this. I encourage you to make the opportunity, and you'll not only applaud the people that you work with, but you'll feel good about patting yourself on the back as well.
We've seen young people propose a few ideas, great ideas, on how we could address and fix these issues, including having one-on-one conversations, including police officers coming into the community, attending community events, and also inviting the youths and community members to these events to foster better relationships together. We've seen oftentimes that the youth, especially in certain communities, they love to see police officers come in and have basketball games, have community events, like whether it's a barbecue or something, that have them together as a whole. Some of the solutions that youth have come up with is even in the schools, they speak a lot about having the police officers come inside of the schools and speak with them one-on-one and like certain things that they've seen happen in their own communities. And oftentimes they would love to be able to speak to the police officers when they're driving by in their cars to say hi, like how is your day going? Just to speak to them more as people and for them to understand both points of view as individuals. I think young people want from police officers, they want mentors, they want teammates, they want people who they could come to whenever they need help, more than just like their savior, but someone who they could see as like someone who understands them for who they are.
I feel like another thing that would be good is when they reach out to the community, that if possible, they wear civilian uniforms where they look and dressed more like us, as opposed to being a man or a woman in a uniform. And if they interacting with you at these things, especially like if you're at a basketball tournament and they're wearing civilian clothes and you guys both like basketball, in your mind, you guys are just two people who like basketball. That's not an officer and a civilian. That's two people who like basketball. Or if you're at a fair and they're wearing the same clothes as you, talking the same way as you, you guys are just two people out having fun.
The community could also do community events, at a public college or something like that, where the community is invited, not only youth, but their parents and their friends and, other family members, so that everybody kind of gets a view of police officer sides, and they also hear out youth sides as well, I think assemblies are good. I feel like when the school invites officers to come in and talk to students, and have students talk back to them, I feel like even if it's just like a small little thing, with students and police officers. So if we really sat there, talk to one another, whether it's through an assembly where the police officer goes up and just explain their job and what they're trying to do, and we explain as teenagers how we feel about certain things, the communications, it'll go very far, and we'll both be happy, and I'm sure it'll make a way better outcome for all of us, and we will definitely have better interactions with police officers because we know what they want when they approach us, and they know what we want when they approach us,
not everything is about the police officers. It's about teenagers too. Like, I think that, like, if you're sitting there and you feel embarrassed about being respectful to a police officer, then you should know you have to change your friend group. You need to get away from people like that because you should be respectful.
You know, you also don't know what's going on in that cop's life. Like, I think it's even harder for the cops to be, because with a kid, you know, you can go out, you can show your true colors, you can sit there and say, like, something's going on with a cop. If you're on the job, you can't do that. I feel like kids as well have to be understanding of that factor as well. Like, you don't know what's going on in that cop's life, because at the end of the day, they're people too. Things happen. Just because they're a cop doesn't mean things don't happen.
Just know that they're just trying to do their job. A lot of the times they really just want to do their job, get this situation that they have to deal with over with, and we make it hard for them to do that a lot of the time. So they just want to do their job, and you do your part. Be respectful as a civilian, a part of the community. Be respectful, because I'm sure majority of police officers will show you the same respect.
You could be injured. Unfortunately, you could also lose your life, and that's why it's better to just, for the safety of you and the officer, just come in there calm, cool, collected, respectful, because at the end of the day, y'all both just want to go home. So sometimes you just, for the safety of yourself, you have to suck it up, because there's other ways you could fight it. You can make a complaint. You could do things the legal way, the right way, and the proper way through a process.
Well, we have been doing a lot of work with our police officers as well as with our young people to get them comfortable with each other, but also allow them to develop the empathy to understand what each entity is going through. So oftentimes children don't understand what the role of the police officer is, what job they have to do to keep the community safe, and oftentimes police officers don't understand what kids are facing or understand that the adolescent mind really isn't developed until they're in their 20s. So when young people are making stupid decisions or silly decisions, there's a reason for it. And we have seen great success in bringing police officers and youth together and just getting them to break bread together, talk to each other, and understand the roles that they have in their interactions, and the fact that everybody just really wants to go home safely. The work that we're doing with getting police officers and young people to speak to each other is important work because it starts to build trust with between each entity. If police officers meet kids and are interacting with them regularly, they're less likely to view them as dangerous, and they're less likely to go from 0 to 60 when they see them making bad decisions, because they understand the kids sometimes do test limits and engage in risky behavior simply because they're kids.